And find my. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for IANTA's webinar series. Today's webinar is on adventures through careers in the outdoors. I'm Gail Chihak, a Tribal Relations and Outreach Manager for IANTA and a Klamath Tribal citizen. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to let a few more people sign in. We've got a really great program for you today. You'll be learning about how to enter a career with the National Park Service and other public lands agencies. For more than 25 years, the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association, we call it IANTA, has served as the only national organization dedicated to advancing cultural heritage tourism in Native nations and communities across the United States. IANTA is a national nonprofit organization governed by an all-Native board of directors and serves as the united voice for the $15.7 billion Native hospitality sector. IANTA's mission is to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors the traditions and values while helping businesses become market export ready for domestic and international markets. We're going to ask that you add your questions to the chat or the Q&A, and we'll take care of them at the end of the presentation. While working with the National Trails programs and Mount Rainier National Park, tribes expressed interest in how their youth can get careers in the national parks and other public lands agencies, like the U.S. Forest Service and BLM. Applying and being selected can be a difficult process. This webinar will provide information about working with the national parks and give tips on how to get through the application process. I'd like to introduce our first speaker for today. We are honored to have Lauren Yellowbird, an Arikara historian who works with the National Park Service as an interpretive specialist for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. He has a bachelor's degree in history and anthropology from North Dakota State University and is a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He received a North Dakota apprenticeship grant to learn and study traditional songs and stories with the Arikara and Salish elders. He is a published author, and he has presented and lectured around the world. In 2022, he was selected to represent the National Park Service in a partnership with the U.S. Embassy in Morocco, discussing interpreting cultural heritage in national parks. He was the technical advisor for the 2016 Oscar-winning film, The Revenant, working with Oscar-winning actor Leonardo DiCaprio and director Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. He was also featured in a number of short documentaries that include his work on The Revenant and was featured in a National Park Service profile film as a park ranger in 2017. He was part of a Smithsonian production on American Indians and a German documentary on Prince Maximilian and his travels along the Upper Missouri in the 1830s, and a French documentary which focused on Native American connections with horses. Lauren has been a featured presenter at a number of educational institutions, national parks, battlefields, and military installations. He received the 2017 North Dakota Governor's Award winner for frontline employees in tourism, and he received the Arikara Young Warrior Award in 2005 and 2007. This award is given to tribal members who promote, honor, and reflect a positive image of the tribe as well as themselves. I give you Lauren Yellowbird.
Thank you, Gal. Just introduce myself in Sahnish or Arikara. Jeet the Jaweko and Hut Gonaha Gona Hawaruchte Watuna He Dihi, the webinar na do din sa garage. So um I myself, yeah, like Gail pointed out, I've been working with the National Park Service for up to 24 years now. And it's been a very interesting and very productive time in terms of telling the story of the indigenous people here. It's an important um, job for sure. I think telling our story and telling what we do as Native people is very, you know, it helps be more inclusive with the National Park Service. There's a number of sites I've done some of this work at, especially in the northern plains here. I did come from a place called Fort Union Trading Post. I am with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, but I also did work with Mount Rushmore, Badlands National Park, uh, Fort Laramie, Bensel Fort, Little Bighorn, um, Sand Creek, uh, Pipestone. There's a number of them I worked with. So, but I give you that information because a lot of these parks are looking for indigenous interpreters, people who can talk about the history and the story of these places and what it means to the people, the native people. One thing I saw over my time was there's a lot of interest in these parks from all over the world, and it's very needed. It's something that I think our people uh, are very capable of doing the type of work that's needed there, uh, from demonstrating, talking about the history and culture, but also, displaying your ability to show that we are still around. We're capable of doing a lot of the work that is out there to be presented. The National Park Service does provide a really good platform for that. And again, it's an incredible opportunity for any student, anybody interested in working in that area in terms of all the different things. Some of the things I haven't talked about, and what Gail had mentioned on top of that is, when I came into the Park Service, I came in as a park ranger interpreter, but over time I also worked in as an EMT. as a wildland firefighter, help with resources, all the different positions that are available, and broadening your ability to do the type of work that is available to you. uh, because I know sometimes when I've brought together programs for Native youth to come on our sites to come and work, some of them are very capable of doing that type of work, but sometimes their interest might be in other areas that the Park Service has to offer. For instance, like wildland firefighting or law enforcement, or the maintenance, maintaining everything, wildland, or uh, cultural resource, all that type of stuff. So there's an opportunity for us as indigenous people to come in and really do a lot of incredible work that's really needed, and it's very looked at, not only from our country, but throughout the world. And that's what I've been noticing over the years. I definitely encourage anybody who's interested in doing that type of work to look at what the National Park Service has to offer. I think it's an incredible opportunity to do a lot of these things, and there's people like myself that are resources that you can reach out to and get more information, get more guidance, mentorship, whatever you might need to get through some of these conversations, and just find a good pathway for yourself. So I think those are really important points that I look at when I think about what the partnership with IANTA is, in terms of what we do, uh, making that bridge connection, and I think it's a very very incredible opportunity for all of us to be involved in. So um, that's kind of my intro. I kind of put it to that, and if there's anybody has any questions or anything, um, be sure and ask. I mean, there's a lot of things that some of us, you might not see it, but we definitely been on a number of you know a number of circles that could fit these conversations. So yes.
Thank you, Lauren. Our next speaker is Jim Egan, a volunteer with the Trails and Rails program. Since 2011, Jim has been a volunteer interpretive guide for the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park in Seattle. He works with the Trails and Rails program, providing interpretation and connecting the sites and stories about what the riders see outside their windows on the Coast Starlight between Seattle and Portland, Oregon, and on the Empire Builder between Seattle and Wenatchee, Washington. Since 2018, he has worked as a volunteer program coordinator at the park, managing the operation of these programs, recruiting, training, scheduling, and marketing. He has also been a volunteer guide at the park's visitor center since 2011. Prior to his volunteering for NPS, he also worked in various human resource posts in the federal government. And here we go, Jim. You're on mute.
Thank you, Gail. And I appreciate the opportunity to share with you this morning. As Gail said, uh, I'm with the Trails and Rails program. This is a volunteer program that's run by the National Park Service, operating under an agreement with Amtrak, the passenger service provider here in the US. We provide a number of services, you might say, on board. Our main function is to interpret the history and scenery along the way. Gail mentioned that our two programs here in Seattle are on board the Coast Starlight going south to Portland, Oregon, and then east to Wenatchee, Washington. But there are about a dozen other programs in the US, even New York City north, going into the Hudson River, up the Hudson River Valley, even north up into the Lake Champlain area. We have a program based in Atlanta. We have programs based in Oklahoma City, Minneapolis, uh, Central California along the beautiful Pacific coast there. and then our programs here in Washington State. We are a shadow of our former self. COVID hit this program particularly hard, but we're coming back strong. As you see in the photos there, this is what we're doing. We're in the Sightseer Lounge car. I talked about interpretation. Well, you know, we have some fantastic scenery out there, but there's also some incredible stories underneath the land that we like to tell. And a lot of those stories have to do with Native history. Here in our area, we have several tribes that we uh, talk about their stories: the Duwamish, the Muckleshoot, the Puyallup, the Nisqually, the Cowlitz. There's a lot to learn out there and to share with our passengers. The um, Not just are we presenting, we're also walking the train, interacting with passengers, answering their questions about these lands that we're on. It's a fantastic opportunity to share with people not only from across the country but from around the world. A lot of people during the summer months, particularly from Europe, from Asia, come to the U.S. just to ride the trains and to see some of the beauty of this country. It's a perfect opportunity to tell a lot of the human stories that we have. Each Trails and Rails program is sponsored by a national park site. As Gail mentioned, I'm with the Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park, but across the country, there are other parks that sponsor programs. As I said, there's about 12 programs altogether. We right now have about 300 guides. And this past year, we reached over 200,000 passengers doing this interpretation. I would invite you, and I'll put up on the share screen a website, a National Park Service website that lists the programs in the parks. And if you're interested in volunteering, being able to share your stories on board the train, I encourage you to get in touch with one of the parks that hosts a Trails and Rails program. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and if you have questions or anything, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Jim. It's a great way to volunteer and get a foot into the National Park Service. Our next speaker is Kinley Cook, who is a Parks and Recreation Management major and a social junior justice minor in her final year at Western Carolina University, situated on the ancestral homelands of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Her passion for environmental and cultural education began in 2018 while working at a summer camp in Eastern North Carolina. In 2021, she made the switch from camps. Oops. Went a little too far that time.
Like a little bit younger than I am.
So in 2021, she made the switch from camps to public lands, taking a position with the North Carolina State Parks at the Goose Creek State Park. After transferring to WCU, she became the first park naturalist at Gorges State Park. She began her current virtual student federal service internship with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail in 2023. Kinley recently accepted a Pathways position, and I'm not sure how to say this, but Catochinton Mountain Park, a National Park Service site in Thurmont, Maryland. She will be moving to Northern Appalachia at the end of May to work at the Catochin Division of Interpretation. In her free time, Kinley enjoys hiking, reading, camping, and watching documentaries. So Kinley, please share your experiences with us.
First of all, I thank you for that introduction, Gail. I'm excited to be here with you all today. I think, Sherry, I sent you a link for a presentation. There we go. Yeah. So let me see. I don't know. Am I able to share my screen? Do we know? Maybe. Let's see here. Maybe we can figure this out. It's not a virtual presentation without some hiccups, is what I like to say. Let's see here.
Gail, you can share the screen with her, but if it's a video, I don't know if we can get that in there correctly.
Yeah, it's not a video, it's a slideshow presentation. So I think if you click on the link, it should come up, and then maybe you can share your screen from there, and I can just tell you when to press the next slide. Because I don't think it's giving me the option to share my screen.
So Gail, if you just want to pull up the link, and then you can advance this.
I am. Okay.
Yay! Okay. So yes, like Gail said, my name is Kinley Cook. I'm currently in my final in-person semester at Western Carolina University, located on ancestral Cherokee land in Cullowhee, North Carolina. We're less than 30 minutes from the modern day EBCI-Qualla boundary. So Native tourism and Native history are very alive and well here. I'm a Parks and Recreation Management major, like Gail said, and a social justice minor, which I've really enjoyed. Being a social justice minor has been awesome because it's very interdisciplinary. So I've gotten to take a lot of our Native American studies and Cherokee history courses, which has been awesome. I very much enjoyed that. I'm a proud transfer, independent, and older student. I'll get into more of that a little bit later. My recreation experience, again, as Gail said, is in camps, public lands, and I recently have commercial recreation experience. About an hour from where my school is, we have a ski area, and I realized that was one of the very few recreation areas I didn't have any commercial recreation experience. So I worked a ski season this past winter. I'm an avid hiker and backpacker. I love bluegrass and old country. I love reading and I love history. So that's a picture of me actually with my first ever Junior Ranger badge from the Blue Ridge Parkway, which ironically enough is the closest national park to where I live right now. It takes me about 10 minutes from my apartment to get to the entrance of the Blue Ridge Parkway, which has been an awesome experience as a student in the Parks and Rec field. So you can go to the next slide, Gail.
Real quickly, Gail, can you adjust your screen?
What do you adjust it how?
We see your whole screen.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
there you
I
go.
think if you click, there we go. On the bottom. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about, these are just some of the key points. What is Pathways? I didn't know much about the program until I started college. Kind of my educational journey, what that looked like, my work history, what I wish I would have included on the federal stuff that Larry will be talking about after me, and what I maybe should have considered before taking a position. And again, like I believe Gail and Sherry said, you can enter questions in the chat and we can answer those at the end. So go ahead and go to the next one. Before we start, again, this is my personal experience and my advice based on my experience and the experiences of others I know. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but if you would like me to help you individually, again, I believe Sherry sent my email in the chat and we'll have questions at the end. So you can go to the next slide, Gail. Thank you. Okay, so the position I got was a Pathways position at Catoctin Mountain Park in Thurmont, Maryland. The technical name on USA Jobs is a student trainee park guide position, which is a uniformed position. It's a GS5 level position, and it is an interpretation internship to permanent position. And just for clarification, interpretation is interpreting a resource or interpreting the history of an area to a broader audience. Basically putting those sciencey and historical terms into language that the general public will understand and be able to connect and relate to, so they feel some kind of connection to the resource they're visiting. So basically this position is an internship position, and interns may be eligible for non-competitive conversion to permanent employment upon graduation due to this position being a, quote, indefinite accepted service appointment. And I'll kind of get into what that means on the next slide. So you can go ahead and switch to the next slide, Gail. So again, this is the job description. The duties of this position are basically to be a park guide, to be a park ranger. So presenting informational talks, guided tours, demonstrations, provide a wide variety of services to visitors, do guided tours, answer questions, basically whatever the park needs in relation to visitor care. That is what park guides positions are, especially at Catoctin where the staff is a little bit smaller. The park is just under 3,000 acres, I believe, so the staff is relatively small. So there's a lot of helping out between the different positions. So you can go ahead and go to the next one, Gail, for me. Thank you. So these are some of the conditions of employment. Again, Larry will kind of get more into the nitty-gritty of USA Jobs in his presentation, which is a presentation I've seen before and benefited a lot from. So basically, you have to be a US citizen. You have to consent to a background check, meet all of these requirements. And one thing that's notable for a pathways position is you have to be a student. That is one of the biggest things. Depending on your pathways program, there are recent graduate programs for pathways and different things like that. But for my specific position, a big qualification was that I was a student at the time of beginning my position, which I will still be, and I'll kind of get into that whenever I talk about my educational stuff. So Gail, would you mind going to the next slide? So again, to be eligible under the Pathways internship programs, applicants must be currently enrolled or accepted for enrollment in a degree, certificate, or diploma program on a full or half-time basis as defined by that institution. And qualifying educational institutions were things like high schools, home schools, technical or vocation schools, colleges, universities, you name it. Basically, you have to be in a current education program. That was a big stipulation for this specific position. You can go ahead and go to the next one. Again, I needed to be a student for that position and meet all of those criterias, and also needed either experience in conjunction with that, whether that be volunteer or work experience. And USA Jobs, again, Larry will get into a lot of this specific stuff, is very particular. Like, for example, at the bottom, you'll see in bold, it says you must include months, years, and hours per week worked. If I didn't include those things, I would have been automatically disqualified from that position, even if I had the most stellar resume otherwise. And also something that was important for this position was to send over a copy of my unofficial transcript, and also to a university letterhead from my advisor stating that I was currently enrolled in school. Again, if I would have missed any of those things, I would have automatically been disqualified from consideration for my position. So you can go ahead and go to the next one, Gail. Again, this is all the information about conversion. Something that and a reason I was drawn to even applying for the Pathways program was the conversion to permanent after graduation, which for me, my graduation date is August. And again, I'll get more into why I was even able to accept this position. But for this particular position, And pretty much every pathways position, from my understanding, you have 120 days from your graduation date to be potentially converted. Again, it's never guaranteed, but it's a nice, like, the goal of the program is to create a pathway for permanent federal employment. So that is always the goal. It doesn't always work out that way, but that is the goal. So yes, so you can go to the next one, Gail. So why did I particularly look at this position? For me, permanence based on conversion potential. Whenever I interviewed for this position, my supervisory ranger explicitly said to me, we are wanting someone that we can hire on permanently. And for me, again, I'll get more into my educational journey, but I am 26 years old. I took gap years in the middle of school, so it was very important to me. I needed to go ahead and get a job where I would have health insurance, because that is something that I knew I would lose whenever I turned 26. And as like I'm a planner. So that was something, again, that was very important to me. This was exactly the type of position I wanted. Pretty much all of my experience, with the exception of my commercial recreation experience and my current National Historic Trail internship, is in interpretation specifically. That is my love. I love environmental ed. I love historical interpretation. All of it, that is my wheelhouse, and that is exactly what this position would offer me. And another plus for me was the location. As I've mentioned, I'm on the East Coast. I have lived in North Carolina for pretty much my entire life. So I wanted to stay in this general region. I'm moving 9 hours away, but the fact that it was a position in Maryland was very enticing to me. So we can go to the next slide, Gail. So my educational journey. I graduated high school 8 years ago in 2016. I went to community college for 2 years, and at the end of those 2 years, didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided that I wanted to start working. At the time, I thought I was just going to be working, but then I found camps. And whenever I worked my first season at a summer camp, I was like, this is great. I wish I could do this all the time. And didn't really connect the dots that recreation is something you can do all the time. So eventually I talked to the director of the camp and was like, hey, this is your permanent full-time job. How can I make this my permanent full-time job? And he kind of told me about his degree program. So eventually I decided I wanted to go back to school. And with the goal of transferring to a school in Western North Carolina so that I could get a degree in Parks and Recreation Management. So I went back to community college, then I transferred to Western Carolina, and I'll be graduating in August, because my specific degree program, and again, the only reason I was able to accept this position, is because I am done with my in-person classes in May. But over the summer, I still have 6 credits of a capstone internship that I have to fulfill. So I am able to go ahead and move in May to my park and start working in order to fulfill that capstone internship credit. So again, if I was graduating in May, which at first I was like, darn it, I wish I could graduate in May with the rest of my buddies, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because now I was able to accept this wonderful opportunity that will potentially earn me a full-time permanent job with the Park Service. So I say all this to say that it's okay to have a non-linear path. If my path was linear, I would not have this opportunity. And I just love to remind people that I have also been an independent student since I was 17. It is okay, and you can make it even if your path doesn't look like everyone around you, and that is very much okay, and normal is different for everybody. So you can go ahead to the next one, Gail. So my work history, as I've said, and this is the work history that I listed on my federal resume. I was a summer camp counselor and also off-season challenge course facilitator at the Refuge of Eastern North Carolina. I was a park technician at Goose Creek State Park, and that position specifically was interpretation focused, but also maintenance focused. So it was nice to kind of highlight on my federal resume that I had both experience in kind of both of those areas. Park naturalist at Gorgeous State Park. Again, that was an interpretation only position. And then my current internship with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, where I'm the recreation resource inventory intern. So other resume points, these were other things I just happened to mention, that I am a wilderness first responder. Yes, Larry.
Explain what you do with your internship.
Yes. So my internship, yes, that would be helpful. So my internship with the National Historic Trail, basically we use GIS data and the GIS mapping of the auto route of the trail. And anything that is about 25 miles on either side of the trail, we're going state by state, and any kind of recreational resource, historical resource, anything that would be of interest to people traveling the trail. My goal is to sometimes contact the site, pull as much information as I can, kind of write a little summary about it, get a picture, fill out the water and land recreation opportunity spectrum forms on those resources. So it's a different type of experience than what I had historically, which is why I chose to accept this internship. In case you cannot tell, I am a talker. I am an explainer. But I've loved getting this other type of experience in the recreation field as well. So good point, Larry. I did not explain what I do with you and how I know you. So yes, I'm a wilderness first responder. I put that I had a CPR certification. I put my volunteer work with the North Carolina Recreation and Parks Association. I put my campus involvement, that I'm a member of the Parks and Rec Club. I'm in a sorority, and my alumni association at Western involvement. I put my campus organization officer positions held to show leadership, and then my references. And the 3 references I had, I went back and looked this morning for this job specifically, were my mentor. Her name is Tanya Poole. She is actually our Project Wild coordinator for our entire state. So I'm sure that helped me, because that is interpretation in a nutshell. One of my advisors here at Western, and my final one for this position was my supervisory ranger at one of the state parks that I worked at. So we can hit the next one. So things I wish I would have included. I wish I would have put all of my volunteer experience, big and small. So I wish I would have listed the trail days that I did. I'm a pretty regular volunteer with the Forest Service here for their trail days that they do. I wish I would have included that. I'm a weekly volunteer at our local food pantry. I wish I would have included that. Just some random things that I've done throughout my time here at Western, I wish I would have included, and I think everyone should include the ways that they're giving back to their community. For me, I think I didn't include it because I'm like, oh, this is second nature. Of course I'm giving back to my community. But that looks really good on a resume, which I did not, I think, realize at the time. I wish I would have added all of my previous jobs, regardless of field. I did not put on my resume that I had been an accounting assistant. That would have been great to add. I did not include on my resume that I had worked at a grocery store. That's customer service. I think that would have been a wonderful thing to add. And I wish I would have used keywords directly from job descriptions. Again, that is something, this was my first time ever applying for a federal position. I did not realize that that was really helpful. But I wish, going back, I wish I would have done that and kind of adapted what my resume said to kind of mirror what the job description was asking specifically. We can go to the next one, Gail. So what I should have considered, pay differing across regions, and I put 3 stars beside cost of living. because I wish I did consider cost of living. Again, I am an independent student and I am older. I've been paying my own bills for a very long time. But I wish I would have considered the cost of living in addition to the pay differing across different regions. The region I ended up accepting a position in, I did not realize paid as well as it did. But I was prepared to accept less. And then whenever I realized that I was getting paid, what I was getting paid, I was like, wow. I kind of did a deep dive and was like, oh, I didn't realize that pay differed like this across regions. So I would highly recommend looking at the pay scale chart for the regions in which you are applying. Okay, you can head to the next one. Yeah, and again, like Sherry and Gail were saying, if you want to put some questions in the chat, feel free to. And yeah, that is my email.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker has helped us put this webinar together. We're really excited that we have someone with his experience and knowledge. So our final speaker today is Larry Calhoun. Larry is a leadership and management expert who is known for delivering high energy and production to all projects he's involved with. He's a decorated combat veteran. Larry brings unique perspectives gained from his experience with the National Park Service. He seeks to empower the National Park Service and partners along the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail to unleash the untapped potential of their projects. Using real-world examples, he demonstrates how the talent each person and organization brings to the table can positively impact the mission. He holds 2 bachelor degrees, excuse me, the first from the University of Virginia in political science, and the second from Georgia Tech in electrical engineering. He also has an MBA from the University of Nevada, Reno, and a master's degree in outdoor recreation from Liberty University. His service with the Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, and Interior has been recognized with numerous awards and decorations. He comes from a family of entrepreneurs that have launched several successful businesses that continue to grow. This deep knowledge and experience, combined with his military and civilian service, enables him to speak the language of both public and private partners, thereby creating clear communication that results in success. I believe in the saying that excellence is a journey, not simply a destination. Larry said, I want to create opportunities for the National Park Service and the community leaders along the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail to empower their community teams to achieve their goals. I'm pleased to present Larry Calhoun.
Thank you, Gail. I think I'm going to have to send a fruit basket to my PR person. That made me sound pretty awesome. But I also figured out something. It's not good to follow all these great folks that spoke before I have, or I'm about to. So it's a hard group to follow. The one thing I would like to do is there is a quick PowerPoint. A lot of people feel that trying to get a job, any job, but especially with the federal government, is like going through a maze. And so we put together a small little presentation here about a labyrinth, which is a maze. And we can just rip through these slides, Gail, to try to so we have enough time at the end for questions. After the slide presentation, I do have a couple of tips, which Kinley actually touched on a bit, but I'll go through them quickly and then we can get to the Q&A. So you can go to the next slide. So again, people think it's very easy. You know, it's like, oh, well, I'll just put in my resume, but there's a little bit more to it than that. And as Kinley had pointed out about the positions, there's a different venues to get to federal jobs with AmeriCorps and Vista and with the Pathways program. Go to the next. So again, as Kinley pointed out, make sure that you read the whole advertisement from top to bottom. There's a lot of information. They kind of sneak in on you at the very bottom of the page. And so make sure that you read the whole positions qualifications to make sure that you're qualified, as well as a lot of times with the different pay scales, whether it be a GS 11, 9, or 7, you may qualify for a 7 or a 9 and not the 11, and make sure that you apply for the correct one. Okay. So the other thing is understanding the USA job process. It's much easier today than it used to be. Before, it was consolidated into one, if you want to call it, warehouse of all federal jobs at the USA Jobs. You basically had to go. Each of the departments had their own application process. So this has been very much simplified, where you go in, you do a search, and every job on the planet that's involved with the federal government will show up. Again, make sure there's a do and do not things to do. Complete every field of the application. Don't leave anything blank. Again, Kinley made a point of what she wished she would have done. The key here to kind of pause. I was working with the Park Service in New York City. I needed a GS5 position, which I'm going to be blunt, a GS5 position in New York City. You're probably going to live in an apartment with 12 other people, and it's very low pay compared to the cost of living. I think it was maybe $32,000 or $33,000 in New York City. That's not very much. I put the announcement out, had it run for 2 weeks, and within 4 days, I had over 500 applicants. And so I was trying to put a stop to it, to end it early. And so by the time I got it taken down, I had almost 700 or 800 applicants. With that amount of people that the computer has said that will qualify, you look for reasons to exclude people, to be honest. And so if they didn't fill out every question, that was a reason to remove them. So please make sure that you fill out every part of the application. Don't skip anything. You can go to the next one. Okay, so they do have a resume builder. I would encourage you to use it. I will touch base on resumes a little bit later, but 10% or 90% of the federal positions will accept your resume as you've downloaded. You can download whatever you have on your computer. There's 10% of them that want it in their particular manner. And so the resume builder, you can put your information there and it'll store it. So if it happens to be one of those 10%, an example would be Homeland Security is one of those 10% of the jobs that require you to use the resume builder and put it in in what they want, not what you have to download. It's downloadable. Go ahead. Again, attention to detail. Can't reiterate enough to complete all the sections. Don't skip anything. Recheck spelling and grammar. That is one of the things that will get you booted basically pretty quick. If you have to think of this as a first date. So if basically your behavior is not going to get any better, it's the first time they see something. So make sure that everything is correct and that you're and everything is spelled correctly. I've had resumes where the person didn't put the correct phone number. I was trying to call them and then I was like, well, I moved on because I couldn't get a hold of you. And as was pointed out, and I'll touch base on my tips afterwards, but with your resume, make sure that you use the verbiage that's in the announcement. It doesn't mean you have to tell the truth on there, but you can use an example would be with the Park Service or with the Park Service or the Department of the Interior. They may ask, they're looking for someone that has inventory experience, whereas the Department of Defense may ask, can you count? So they're looking for that. Can you count in your resume, or I have inventory experience with the DoD or Department of Interior. If you put I can count, the Department of the Interior, the computer check will skip over you and not put you on the cert to certify you for that you're eligible for the job. So it's looking for those keywords. The other thing is to store. USA Jobs allows you to have 5 different resumes. I would suggest using all 5. I have 5 on there. There's different series of jobs that I qualify for. There's more, you could qualify for more than 5, but each of these series use different verbiage and they look for those keywords. And so again, you have to be truthful on your resumes, but you can, as example I gave you about the counting and the inventory, it's looking for those keywords. So make sure that your description of what you've done in your past is on there with the verbiage that the announcement is looking for. Okay, Gail. Well, again, a lot of times my advice would be it's great to put what you've done in the past, but a lot of times they're looking for what your potential is. So you need to express that in your resume that this is my potential. This is what I've done in the past, but you also need to weave in there what your potential is of your abilities for down the road. Okay. Give you a personal story. I was working for the Park Service, and in New York City, I was in charge of youth and volunteers. And in New York, I had, I don't know, between 200,000 and 300,000 volunteers. We were doing over 1 million man hours annually. I had, I think, 10,000 youth groups. And I was going to some job fairs, and a number of complaints was coming back that applying and they were never hearing back, and they qualified for the job, but they still weren't getting called. So I did test the process, and I applied for a small park in the Panhandle of Florida for youth and volunteer services. I think they had 3 youth volunteer groups and they had 100 volunteers. And I didn't qualify for the job. That's the letter I got. So you can't take it personally. It does happen, unfortunately. The system, it's a good system, but it does have its flaws, and that's going to be one of them. So the advice there is it fair? No, it's not. It could be, again, you didn't fill everything out, or the computer didn't, you didn't use the verbiage that it was looking for. It could be a number of things. That's the issue. The thing is, you have to have patience and don't give up. It will happen. You just got to have patience. It could take, my position that I'm in right now, it took 8 months for me to, and I was a transfer to get here. So it's patience, again, is a key word. Patience, patience, patience. Okay. Yep. Again, you got to make yourself look, always be positive with it. Like I said, besides adding what your the positive things in your history, you've got to look at what you're bringing to the table for the future. So you have to interweave both of those into it. Well, again, as Kinley pointed out, and you have to read the whole advertisement. Sometimes it asks for your supervisor, how many hours you worked per week, your start and end dates. And if you don't put that on there, that will automatically eliminate you from them going further. So make sure that you read the whole announcement and put everything in that they're asking for. And as Kinley pointed out, she wished she would have put every job that she ever had and all their trainings, transcripts, writings. With USA Jobs, you can store all that information. Like, I am retired from the military. I keep my military, my DD Form 214, which shows everything I've ever done in the military. I store that there. I store my my transcripts from my schools. So then I don't really have, it's already there. I can just click on it. I can send it to them if I choose to, or not, if they don't ask for it. Okay. You can also set up where it alerts you. Like, I use keywords, like I'm the recreation planner for the Lewis and Clark Natural Historic Trail. When I was looking for jobs, I would just put in recreation. And if any job in the world would come up with the word recreation in it, I would get an email. But you have to set that up so you are given an alert if something comes up with whatever the term that you are looking for. Mine just happened to be recreation. Also, use on the right side of USA Jobs, there is categories. You can make those priorities. Like, I put that I am eligible as a veteran. You can use every one of those filters to help narrow down, and so you're not bombarded with stuff that you're not really going to be interested in. An example would be, this morning I typed in recreation into USA Jobs, and 1,521 jobs came up. I then put my filters in that I've used in the past, and there were still 284 jobs appeared. Okay. So the other thing to do is to go into USA Jobs and just start playing around with it. That's the best advice you can do. Again, patience. Learn what words to search for in your particular interest area, and you'll get accustomed to how the system actually works. So the best thing to do is, like anything else, Could be math or bowling or anything else. You got to practice. So get in there and make sure the first key is set up an account, and then put all your pertinent information in, your resumes, and transcripts or anything else that you find, certificates like if you're first aid or CPR. I have all that stored in my account. And then any questions? I know I've rushed through this pretty quickly. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Again, to go back, just to reiterate some of the what I deem is important. Make sure that your resume is searchable. So then it's not just you applying. Your resume is then open for anybody looking. It's like when I'm looking, if I got a position that's available, I will just type it in again. And if you make your resume searchable, then you're also getting reverse recruited, if you will. It's not just you looking, it's somebody else can find you if they're looking for a particular position. They also have a list of priority jobs. You can check on and make sure that you search that on what the priority is. Some of the jobs, they don't have an ending. They just will put it out for a whole year. They're just constantly looking for positions to be filled. Again, make sure that you put upwards to the 5 resumes on there, depending on the series, once you figure out what's in your wheelhouse. And make sure that you use the verbiage in your description of what your past and what your potential can be. And then also put the information in the resume builder so it's there. Generally, once you build a resume in the resume builder, it'll store it there. And then if you apply for something in that 10% of the jobs that use that particular source, it's just the name and the location that you have to change. So it's not redoing the whole thing. Let's see. Speed up here. The other thing, be careful. Government people, usually we don't like recreating the wheel at times. And so we'll take something that somebody's used before. So an example would be my job. When it come available in 2017, it may not have had that you could telework and a remote work was eligible. And when I leave, somebody just grab it's like, oh, this looks like a great description, and put the announcement on there without putting that it's now remote eligible and telework eligible. And if you type in telework eligible only, it won't appear. So just be careful with your the features that you put down on your search. Make sure that you do use all your filters because it'll help. Again, as I pointed out, there was 1,500 jobs that came up with the word I looked at, typed in recreation this morning. You don't want to have to go through 1,500 jobs. So put in all your filters and it'll help cut down on that. Also, capitalize on all your hiring preferences, whether you're a veteran or if you're disabled, if you're a minority. Make sure that you use those. It will give you a bit of a step up. And think big. Again, like Kinley did point it out, use every experience you have, put it in your resume. I know the normal resumes, they're like, well, keep it to 1 or 2 pages. With the government, I think mine is 13 or 14 pages long. That just means I've been around for a long time, but I put everything I've ever done on there. And Kinley touched a bit on the pay, and I'll skip over that. If you got any questions regarding the pay and the steps and all that, I'll be more than happy to answer them later. And make sure, again, and I did say this before, but make sure that you understand all levels of the position. Again, you may qualify for GS7 and 9, but not an 11. So just keep that in mind. It's the same job. It's just where they think your starting position should be. Other than that, again, if you've got any questions, feel free to let us have them. Over.
Thank you, Larry. Well, we're a little over time, but if we can stay on a few more minutes, we'll take a couple of questions. If you type your questions into the chat. Well, it looks like you guys really answered all your questions during the presentation.
I do have one thing, and it just dawned on me. Kinley said that she was a uniform position, and Lauren, I believe, is they're eligible to wear or uniforms, whereas my position, I do not wear a uniform. I'm not eligible to wear that or have a badge. So there are other positions besides just the folks get to wear a cool Ranger outfit. I don't get to do that, so they're very fortunate.
Well, I want to thank you all for helping us with the people understanding how to have a career and what that would include. I just want to, before we leave, I want to mention that IANTA 26th Anniversary American Indigenous Tourism Conference will be hosted by the Tunica Biloxi tribe at the Paragon Casino Resort in October 28th through the 31st. We hope that you can join us there. Again, visit our website at ianta.org to learn more about our educational programs, and visit nativeamerica.travel to find out more about tribal attractions. And we encourage you to join IANTA, become a member, and help us support cultural tourism around the world. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for your wonderful presentations.